that this case is rarely, if ever, cited in the medical literature. Might it be that the success of such an unscientific technique provides embarrassment to the practice of science-based medicine? Well, we can only surmise. An unkind thought on my part. Certainly, its publication in the British Medical Journal would seem to have warranted comment and discussion for a number of the provocative issues it raises, including, but not limited to, the following. Should this case qualify for and be described as a miracle? At what point does a wonder become a miracle? Secondly, if hypnosis succeeded in curing a congenital disorder, might there be hope for hypnosis to similarly cure other congenital disorders, such as a congenital deformity, such as clubfoot? Did Mason's treatment extend the limits of medical miracles? And also, can it be said that Mason was a miracle worker? Or was he simply a fortuitous bystander to an amazing, unpredictable, and unexplainable outcome? What does this case history inform us then about the title of this lecture? Well, to undertake a comprehensive appreciation of medical miracles and its subtitle of faith, fact, or fiction would require, at a minimum, an excursion into the accumulated knowledge of medicine, philosophy of science, history of medicine, human psychology, medical sociology, religion, theology, magic, and more. Areas that demand more wisdom than I can claim and more time than you are no doubt willing to devote beyond the time-limited constraints of this presentation. As a compromise, I invite you to join with me as we attempt to better understand some of the picturesque scenery that has been painted by many gifted thinkers along the way. We will need to suppress the temptation to launch into a fascinating discussion of hypnosis itself. Suffice to observe that historians and archaeologists tell us that hypnosis has been used in one form or another for thousands of years. 1400 BC, Hippocrates was the first to claim the existence of a body-mind, mind-body connection, and remnants of its use in religious and healing ceremonies can still be seen today in some communities that are often described as living under primitive conditions. These ceremonies show us that rhythmic chanting, repetitive beating of drums, and sparks that rise from fires all give the village shaman, witch doctor, or priest the appearance of having magical or mystical powers. The village shaman, witch doctor, or priest are able to work miracles through what we would call today the power of suggestion. Similarly, inscriptions in Egyptian and Greek sleep chambers testify to the use of dream states and trances in providing cures and relief for physical discomforts. Some biblical scholars suggest that there may be mention of hypnosis in the Bible, Genesis, when Eve was created from one of Adam's bones, from Samuel, from the book of Job, and from the book of Acts, often employing the description and terminology as part of dream induction, but its modern use dates from the Viennese physician Franz Anton Mesmer in the late 1700s, from which the English language invented a new verb, to mesmerize. And particularly with the later advent of the neurologist Jean-Martin Charcot, who was born in 1825. Charcot's revolutionary studies and treatments concerned the world of hysteria and its bizarre manifestation in seizures, paralysis, spastic gestures, and other unexplained psychic and somatic outcomes that are hardly better understood today with our modern advances in the neurosciences. Hypnosis continues to occupy a dominant position in the world of psychiatry and the study of the unconscious. But it is especially psychoanalysis that owes its intellectual debt to Charcot for his influence on Freud and for his many contributions that placed the Salpêtrière Hospital in Paris on the consciousness of the times, long before recent times, when that hospital is more commonly associated with the facility where the final medical attention was given to the late Princess Diana. A fascinating review of this period, including Charcot's disagreements with the church, has recently been published by a Dutch historian, Asti Hoestveld. It came out in 2011, so it's rather recent. So let's begin our lecture by starting with an analytic and pedagogic strategy patterned after the French formalist method of literary analysis, explication de texte. Let's see what the words mean. Let us clarify what the separate words themselves are supposed to inform us. Well, we'll start with miracle. There is no way to encounter the topic of miracle without recognizing the historical journey that has dominated such a discussion from the times of St. Augustine onward. St. Augustine formulated his first theological definition of miraculum. Shortly after his conversion in 387, he wrote a treatise for his friend Honoratus, inviting him to accept the Christian faith. And after pointing out the need for revelation, Augustine showed how reasonably the Word of God may be embraced when it is fortified by miracles. He adds, and this is taken from St. Augustine, I call a miracle anything which appears arduous or unusual beyond the expectation or ability of the one who marvels at it. Furthermore, he is quoted as saying, miracles do not happen in contradiction to nature, but only in contradiction to that which is known to us of nature. There is what has been called the epistemic theory of miracles, as a name given by philosophers to the theory of miraculous events, as given by St. Augustine. And according to the theory, there are no events contrary to nature. That is, no transgression, as the philosopher Hume would use it, the laws of nature. An event is a miracle only in the sense that it does not agree with our understanding of nature, or it doesn't fit our picture of nature, or that it thwarts our expectations as to how the world should behave. According to a perfect scientific understanding, there would be no miracles at all. Spinoza claims that the universal laws of nature are decrees of God. Hence, any event happening in nature which went against the natural universal laws would necessarily also contravene the divine decree, meaning nature and understanding. Or if anybody asserted that God acted in contravention to the laws of nature, then he, ipso facto, would be compelled to assert that God acted against his own nature. It's an evident absurdity. Further, as nothing happens in nature which does not follow from her laws, and as her laws embrace everything conceived by the divine intellect, and lastly, as nature preserves a fixed and immutable order, it most clearly follows that miracles are only intelligible as in relation to human opinions, and merely mean events of which the nature causes cannot be explained by any reference to ordinary occurrence, either by us or at any rate by the writer and narrator of the miracle. In other words, according to Spinoza, for example, miracles are not a transgression of a natural or scientific law, but only of natural laws as we currently understand. A miracle is simply an event we cannot explain, and it is parasitic on our ignorance. It is in reality a natural event that surpasses our limited human comprehension. To a perfect understanding, nothing would appear miraculous. This is the first main point that Spinoza makes in his chapter of miracles. I thought I was going to have 3 hours, and Father Joe tells me that I am in error. So it will be a miracle if I went that long. But, well, anyhow, the interpretation of the various criteria for a miracle is best left to expert philosophers and theologians, and we will not attempt to any further dissection or discussion along this line of thought. But miracles in nature were for centuries put on equal footing as a sign from God to man. However, in the 12th century, a distinction was found possible in the relationship between miracles and events of other kinds. While miracles were an accepted way in which Christians were in touch with the supernatural, other modes of supernatural contact, to some extent, were distinguished from miracles. Most of all, a distinction was made between miracle and magic. The arts of magic were consistently forbidden in the Christian church as being a manipulation and distortion of creation by mankind. Edicts of church councils and disciplinary directions and penitentials alike forbade magical practices to Christians throughout the Middle Ages. The church's teachings on magic did not change, nor did the disregard for those teachings at a popular level decrease. In fact, in the 12th century, the revival of learning and the interest in how things happen rather than why led to an increase in the amount of magic practiced, and discussions of the questions of mechanics of events began to predominate over the question of their significance. So a miracle is generally understood to be some occurrence or outcome, usually a good and a favorable one, inconsistent with rational explanation, in violation of rules of science, in violation of expectations or rational comprehension, an occurrence unable to be explained by invoking pre-existing history of similar dynamics of nature, resistant to description by boxes and lines and complicated mathematical algorithms that otherwise are used to trace causal origins or forces. Above all, the miracle is purported to have actually occurred and had been witnessed. Furthermore, the label miracle is commonly ascribed to a rare event, meaning having a very low probability, albeit upon reflection, it can surprisingly be recognized as a routine event to which we do not generally pay attention. Is it not miraculous that a human heart can beat over the course of a 70-year lifespan an average of 2.5 billion times, 36 million beats a year, 98,000 beats per day, 4,100 beats an hour, all based on the average heart rate of 68 beats per minute? Or is it not a miracle that we are being spared this very moment of having a meteor drop in our midst, invading this hall and creating chaos, and so on? Perhaps we are better off not to preoccupy ourselves with a constant reminder of miracles that surround us. There's a lovely Aesop fable that reminds us of the danger of being overly aware of such mysterious productions. The story of the wise fox who wished to capture a centipede. It's a little bit inaccurate. Centipede meaning 100 legs, but a centipede doesn't really have 100 legs. But Aesop had the right to make the fables the way he wanted them. And so the fox had a strategy to capture the centipede, and he dared the fox to answer how he is able to decide which of its 100 feet he needed to move at any given moment. The fable tells us that while formulating a reply, from then on the centipede froze and was unable to move at all. The cause for the miracle will commonly be ascribed to the intervention of an equally miraculous personality who was endowed with some special supernatural powers, such as the witch doctor